Today my wife is joining us. Say hi.
Hi.
We're doing angle, angle, side, triangle congruence theorem. You probably figured that out when you saw AAS. And a lot of you noticed when we were doing angle, side, angle that when we have two angles of a triangle, we can actually figure out the third. And the reason for that is the triangle sum theorem, that we can add up the three angles of a triangle. So for example, angle A, angle C, and angle B here. And when we add them up, we get 180 degrees. So in this case, we know that angle A is congruent to angle D, angle C is congruent to angle F. And it would be possible to prove these two triangles congruent using a combination of that triangle sum theorem and angle side angle. Because if angle A and angle D are congruent, angle C and angle F are congruent, that means angle B is simply 180 minus the sum of these two values, right? Similarly, angle E will be 180 minus the sum of these two values. So therefore, B must be the same thing as E. We're going to do a little more formal version of that proof. Mark that there. And we're going to go through it kind of quick, so bear with me here. This one says the angle A is congruent to angle D, and angle C is congruent to angle, what angle?
F.
Yep, good job. You got it. Okay, proofs are hard, right?
I hate proofs.
Okay. And then finally, we get to here. Measure of angle A plus measure of angle B plus measure of angle C equals 180. The reason for that is the triangle sum theorem. We covered that earlier. So remember, triangles, 180 degrees. Then this is just a rearranged version of it. So we've just rearranged it. So now that angle B is by itself. And then we hop over to the other triangle. Same deal. We write out the three angles that add up to 180 degrees. And then we rearrange that one again. So angle E is by itself. Now we're going to note something here. Before we said we haven't covered this a whole lot, but in the past we've used angles being equal and angles being congruent interchangeably. And I'm not a real stickler for these, but note that there is a subtle difference. Angles can't be equal to each other because these are totally separate things. Similarly, you wouldn't look at identical twins and say you guys are the same person. But we can say that they're congruent. So or we could say that their measurements are equal. So that's kind of the distinction we're teasing apart here. And we're doing that in order to kind of use this triangle sum theorem that uses equality in numbers. So the measure of angle A is equal to the measure of angle D. That's because these two are congruent. And similarly, the measure of angle C is equal to the measure of angle F because those two are congruent. So that's just the definition of congruence, that the measurements are the same. Once we know that they're congruent, we can use these for substitution purposes. For example, since A is equal to D, we can use this equation here, and we're just simply going to substitute in this angle A for this angle D. So we're going to go out with that, and we're going to put in angle A right here. Similarly, we're going to swap out C for F. So we're going to get rid of that measure of angle F, and we're going to put the measure of angle C in. So that gives us this brand new equation down here. Now remember that when we have this thing is equal to that thing, and that thing is equal to the other thing, is it possible to say that this thing is equal to the other thing? Yes, because of the transitive property. So that means that the measure of angle E is equal to the measure of angle B. There's a typo here. It should be equals to, not congruent, because we're talking about the measurements. The measurements are equal. If we go down a little further, it says here that angle B is congruent to, another typo, angle E. Why is that true? Because we just said their measurements are equal. Again, it's a property of congruence. And then finally, we can say that the two triangles are congruent. Why? Well, we just said angle B and E are congruent. Therefore, we can use angle side angle. So I know that was a bit of a mouthful, but it's a pretty good example. Angle side angle will come up, and I trust you guys will be able to use it just in place of angle, side angle, or did I say angle, side angle? Angle, angle, side will come up a few times. Anyway, that's it. That's all I got. Have a good one.